This is me when I was 11 years old. It's my first solo. It was only 8 bars long, and when I finished it at the Reno Jazz Festival, the adjudicator said enthusiastically into the cassette player, "Nicely done, young man." And then I turned around and he saw that my hair was in a French braid, and he said, "Excuse me, young lady." I was the kind of girl who was comfortable being around girls and comfortable being around boys. I had 3 brothers. I was usually the first girl picked during PE when we chose teams. During recess, I wanted to play basketball. It was around this time, around 6th grade, that the girls stopped playing basketball at recess and started standing around in a circle talking to each other, mostly talking about boys. Slowly but surely, the boys stopped thinking that I was awesome because I was as good as they were at the sports, and paying attention to the girls who stood on the sidelines and flashed smiles at them. I was really confused by all of this and sad because I started losing boyfriends and girlfriends because I was kind of bad at playing the game. I went through periods where I played the game and tried to dress cuter and pretend that I wasn't so interested in basketball anymore, but maybe cheerleading instead. It didn't last long, and I actually found refuge in the music room during lunch for most of the rest of middle school. My middle school band teacher let me start my own band and practice during lunch, me and 4 boys. And I was the leader because it came pretty naturally to me. Music saved me from the mean girls and the boys who no longer paid attention to me in middle school. I didn't understand this phenomenon very much until I started raising my own daughter, and my mother-in-law gave me a book to read called Reviving Ophelia by Mary Pfeiffer, I'm not sure. This book helped me understand that what happened to me in middle school is pretty par for the course with adolescent girls. For many reasons, biological and environmental, many girls start pretending to be bad at things, dropping their former passions in an attempt to be ladylike, and in many cases, not to get teased for their tomboy ways. It takes a strong girl to hold on to what she loves and to boldly excel at the things that she's good at through those early teen years. I was lucky to make some good girlfriends in high school who were all accomplished in different ways and weren't afraid to try hard and be passionate about the things that they did well in. My own daughter managed to stay true to herself throughout adolescence too, and I'm so grateful it turned out that way because she's a really amazing girl. I mentioned on Twitter this week that the percentage of females who watch my channel is higher than it's ever been at 15%. I counted that as a small success, even though that's a really low number. Many of the men who run successful YouTube channels similar to mine are lucky if they get 6 or 7% female. If we look at enrollment in jazz studies programs, and more specifically, degrees given at the top 5 jazz institutions in the US, we can see that 82.5% of the degrees given are to the males. And this was in 2016. Since the beginnings of jazz, there have been relatively few females participating in the art form, and there's probably a lot of reasons for that. I'm not really here today to talk about what those reasons are or were in the past, and I'm not here to ream on men for making it hard for women to, join this boys' club or anything like that. In fact, I don't really think that that's the case. In my experience, most of the men that I've run across and performed with and been good friends with have all just been amazing and treated me just as I would have expected to be treated. I do think that as time goes by, we're likely to see a huge decrease in that kind of behavior, just for the sheer fact that we're evolving as a society. But what I do want to talk about today is that 11-year-old girl, 12-year-old, 13-year-old, that girl that you know that might be going through this kind of thing. I narrowly escaped it. If music hadn't been so deeply rooted in me already, there was always something that told me that that was going to be it for me. And if that wasn't in place, I definitely would have placed more importance on what the boys thought and what the other girls thought of me From time to time I did. It's a hard trap to get out of. And I've seen so many girls, both in just my life and raising my kids and in teaching music, that decide to drop it. You know, I dropped it for a little bit. I quit taking lessons when I was 13, pretty much just because it wasn't cool. It was only that need for music that brought me back to it. After about 6 months, I just couldn't take it anymore. But not everybody's got that, and they might need a little extra push from you if you're in a position to, you know, be molding and shaping and encouraging and teaching this age of girl. And here's one thing. When it was time for me to choose an instrument in like the 5th grade, I wanted to play the trombone really bad. Thought it was a cool looking instrument. I really wanted to work that slide. And when I told my parents, they said, no, girls don't play the trombone. You got to pick something else. And so they kind of scooted me toward the clarinet. And I didn't want to play the clarinet, but I think that happens a lot. I don't blame my parents for that, but I think it might be a kind of common thing. Maybe not so much anymore, but the girls I knew that were playing instruments, they were right. A lot of times we're playing clarinet and flute, sometimes saxophone, but never trombone, never trumpet. And even when I got into college and I made the best big band in college, there was one other girl in the band besides me, and she played alto sax. First thing right there, let the girls choose whatever instrument they want to play. Let them play what they want to play, right? Girls should be allowed to make just as much noise as the boys. And if you take a look at jazz history, you can see that most females that participated in the art form were singers. And, you know, there could be a lot of reasons for that too. I tend to think that, you know, when the big bands and the dance bands were trying to get people out to the dance halls and the clubs, they probably wanted somebody out front who was pretty to look at. That might not totally be the case. Frank Sinatra was plenty pretty. But for whatever the reason, that's the place where the women shined, was as vocalists mostly. And, you know, I showed you all pictures of instrumentalists before, and I'm willing to bet that you didn't know who a lot of them were. Neither did I. I've had to do a little research and listening, and gosh, there's some wonderful women who just didn't get the chance to be known like the men did. And here comes another point of mine. When you're giving listening sheets, I don't know if you make listening sheets for your groups. You totally should. If you're teaching a band, like even if it's, you know, a middle school jazz band or a high school jazz band or a college combo, you should have a listening list every semester. Put the girls on it. Put the females in there. Make sure that they're listening to these important players. And there are so many now. It's kind of hard to find them as you go back in history, but now they're everywhere and they're important. Ken Burns' documentary just gave about a minute or two to talking about women. And in the whole rest of that jazz documentary, nothing. We totally have to change that. We can create our own mini documentaries on jazz for whatever class we're teaching, right? It's up to you. You tell the kids who was important in jazz and who is important in jazz. Totally up to you, not up to Ken Burns. Another thing about your bands, I know that when it comes time for the solo, you're playing whatever song it is, Tuxedo Junction, and there's room for 4 solos. You say, all right, who wants to take a solo? Usually you're going to have a couple of kids who always raise their hand. They're usually boys. Not always. It was me when I was in middle and high school. I would always, I'll take one if nobody else wants one. Or, you know, encourage the girls. If you see a girl that you know has some aptitude, she's got a pretty tone on whatever instrument she's playing or whatever, just call her aside after class and say, I'd really like you to take a solo this semester. How about you do it on Tuxedo Junction right now? I'll help you with it. Give you some Aimee Nolte videos to help you, whatever. But just encourage the girls to take a solo. If you're in a college combo, encourage the girls in your combo to arrange a tune this semester. If you've got to leave and have a sub come in and you need a student director for the day, pick a girl. Notice any little biases that you might have in your own messed up mind, because we're all a little messed up from, you know, our environment and our surroundings and the way that we've been raised. Just leave a little room to just say, are there ways that I am not giving everybody an equal chance? And then just change it like that. Another way is, you know, if you're all grown up and getting your own gigs out there, if you've got contacts in your phones, you know, for all the people you know who play the drums, Make an effort to at least get one girl on every instrument. You know, I always set up my contacts on my phone for whoever's name it is, whatever instrument they play. I just put that as their last name. That way, when I go through my contacts and I'm looking for a drummer, under drum, I've got everybody's name, like Mike, drums, Bill, drums, Katie, drums, whoever. Just pick some girls now and then. You know, a prime example of somebody out there who's choosing females to shine in their project is Jacob Collier. He's hiring amazing women to perform with him on these projects that he's so prolifically putting out. Laura Mvula and Maro, she's one of my favorites. Becca Stevens, and the list goes on and on. He's doing it. I don't know why. Maybe he's really comfortable around girls. I know he grew up with sisters and a mom who's a fantastic violin player. I think he's putting an emphasis on it. I don't know. I haven't talked to him about it, but I do think he's trying to be a pioneer in making sure that he balances his groups. I think that's really cool. Now, you know, I'm not saying to choose a woman over a man if she doesn't have the talent. Of course, she's got to have the talent. No brainer. But just ask yourself if you could do better in that way and try it. There's so many ways that you might be able to help to make this more of an equal art form. It's crazy, right? 14% listening to my channel. 18% graduating from college with degrees are women. I mean, the numbers are crazy. It's been that way forever. It's getting better. But we're all a little bit afraid, aren't we, of jazz dying? The more we can encourage these young girls to be a part of it, the more chance we're going to have for the art form to survive and thrive and even be greater than it's ever been before. I see that potential for it, and it excites me. I hope maybe I lit a little fire under you to try to make more of a difference in this way than you're already making. I know you're probably already doing these things. Just a little reminder. Thanks everybody for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. And I'll see you next time on Aimee Nolte Music.